welcome to today's On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of On This Day in Tudor History. Well, today I'm taking you back to the reign of King Henry VIII. For on this day in Tudor history, the 2nd of January 1536, Eustace Chapuys, who was the imperial ambassador, arrived at Kimbolton Castle. He was there to visit his good friend Catherine of Aragon, the former wife of King Henry VIII, who was now officially called the Dowager Princess of Wales, although she still referred to herself as Queen, and Chapuys called her Queen as well. Catherine was very ill, and Chapuys spent 4 days with her, spending 2 hours every afternoon with her. He wrote to his master Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, of his visit in a dispatch dated the 9th of January 1536, and I'm going to share with you some of what he wrote. As I stated in my dispatch of the 30th of December ultimo, almost immediately after closing it, I mounted my horse in order to repair in all possible haste to the Queen's residence, followed by a numerous suite of my own servants and friends. Arrived at Kimbolton, the Queen sent immediately for me, and lest people should imagine that her illness was a feint, and also for fear of a friend of Cromwell's whom that secretary had sent to accompany me, or rather to act as a spy on my movements and report what I might say or do during my visit, she, the Queen, was of opinion, as I also was, that the said guide, as well as the principal officers of her household, such as her own chamberlain, who had not seen her for more than a year, and many others, should witness the interview. After making my reverence and kissing the Queen's hand, she was pleased, out of sheer kindness and benevolence, and without any occasion or merit on my part, to thank me for the many services which, she said, I had rendered her on former occasions, as well as the trouble I had taken in coming down to visit her, at a time too when, if it should please God to take her to himself, it would at least be a consolation to die, as it were, in my arms, and not all alone like a beast. I failed not to give her on this occasion all possible hope of a speedy recovery, as well as of the prospect there was of her being shortly removed to other quarters, since the King of his own accord had recently offered to let her choose among various royal manors of his own that he named to me, and likewise to pay certain arrears of pension due to her, adding for her great consolation that the King had been very sorry to hear of her illness. After this, I entreated her to take courage and do her best to get well. If not entirely for her own sake, I said she ought at least to consider that on her recovery and life depended in a great measure the union, peace and welfare of Christendom, to enforce which I made use of several arguments as previously preconcerted between her and myself through the intermediary of a third person. All this being said aloud, that the guide I have alluded to, and several others present at the interview, might, if necessary, report our conversation, and my words be the cause of greater care being taken to preserve her life. After some more conversation on the above topics, the Queen bade me retire and rest after the fatigues of my journey. She herself longed for some, as she'd not slept 2 hours for the last 6 days. Not long after this, she again sent for me, and we talked together for 2 long hours, and I must say that although for fear of overtiring her, I made several attempts to get up and leave the room, she would not hear of it, saying that I afforded her great pleasure and consolation by remaining where I was. The letter continues, and I'll give you a link to read the whole letter for yourself, but Chapuys explains that he left after 4 days because Catherine was evidently getting much better, as he says, in that her stomach was retaining food and she was getting some sleep. Her physician also believed that she was out of danger. Chapuys added that he thought he ought to leave, not only in order not to abuse the permission granted to me by the king, but also to ask for a better residence for her, as promised at my departure from London. Unfortunately, Catherine's improvement in health was short-lived, and she died on the 7th of January 1536. Now, in last year's talk, I spoke about the surrender of Granada on this day in history in 1492 to the forces of King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile, the parents of Catherine of Aragon. So I'll give you a link to enjoy that. Thank you for joining me. You can subscribe by clicking round about there. You can hit the bell to be notified as these videos go live. And you can, of course, give me a like and leave a comment. I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.